All right, people, look up. I know it's the morning, but you need to be happy. Hi, my name is Bronson James. I'm the Associate IT Training Specialist here with the IT Division at Weber State University. On behalf of the campus stores as well as the IT Division, welcome to our special Tech Expo today. We have lots of things going on for you. Feel free to talk to our information booth if you want to go to some of our educational classes today as well. We're really excited today to have Kari Byron, who will be doing an interview here on stage for you, kind of like inside the actor studio, if you can remember that. But let me introduce first our moderator, who is Allison Barlow-Hess. She is the Public Relations Director here at Weber State University, a position she's been honored to hold for the last 6 years. Previous to that, she was an instructor in the Department of Communication and advised here at the Signpost for Weber State University. Early in her career, she worked as a reporter down at some network you might know if you're from Utah here called KSL, where she was there for 12 years. Okay, welcome Allison Hess, who will then introduce you to our special guest today, Ms. Kari Byron.
Thank you. It's awesome to be here. I know that our earliest arrivers came an hour ago to get the best seats in the house. That's the kind of enthusiasm we have. It's great to have you here. I'm very pleased and honored to have this opportunity. I'm going to need just a little bit of help from you in this introduction, and I'll let you know when that happens. You'll know just what to say, but be prepared. So over the past decade, Kari Byron has become well recognized in the world of reality-based television. Of course, we know her best as the star on Discovery Channel's flagship show, Mythbusters. Thank you. Kari has a curious nature and spent a lifetime developing odd skills and interests. After college and some world travel, she settled in San Francisco to work as a sculptor. Special effects and prop making seemed a perfect fit, so trying to break into the field, she took an internship at M5 Industries with Jamie Heineman. Her first day turned out to be the beginning of Mythbusters and a career in television. Though Kari's dream was to work as an artist, somehow handling poop, eating bugs, wiring explosives, and scraping chicken guts off the ceiling turned out to be her real dream job. Since then, she's hosted and produced shows on several networks, hosted the White House Science Fair with President Barack Obama, and appeared around the world speaking on the role of science, technology, engineering, art, and math in entertainment. Currently, she is filming a new show with her old friends, Tori and Grant, and hopefully we'll get some inside information about that show. Let's give her a Weber State welcome. Welcome, Kari Byron. We know that Kari has been our entertainment addiction, for many years. In fact, as I told Kari, I got a lot of cachet from my 3 sons knowing that I got to do this interview today. They were pretty jealous. So you've been our entertainment addiction. What's your entertainment addiction? Oh.
Technology. Yeah, I've been a big fan of Netflix since the get. They are actually based out of my hometown in Los Gatos, so the big building for Netflix, or at least their United States branches, out of there. So I always wanted to support the home team, and I became a big fan of I binge watch some of their nerdier shows. I'm a big fan of like Jessica Jones and Daredevil and Luke Cage and Stranger Things, and I'm sure you guys all know all those.
I just finished Brain Dead. You know, binge watching a little Brain Dead. We have to do that. So tell us something. I'm sorry, this mic is a little loud, and I quit playing with it. Tell us something about you that would surprise everybody here.
I'm actually a really good cook, and I think I do a spot-on peacock call. When I grew up in Los Gatos, I guess at one point there had been some sort of wealthy billionaire that had a house in the mountains, and he wanted peacocks roaming around. And so he brought in all of these peacocks, and it was probably, it was 20 years before I was even born. And then he disappeared and left these peacocks roaming around. So we had wild bands of peacocks that would land on your roof in the middle of the night. It sounded like Santa on the roof, just boosh. And then when I would try to ride my bike to school in the morning, every now and then one would confront you. And peacocks, they're pretty birds, but they're big, and they look mean when they go and put up all their feathers. So just those calls are kind of part of the fabric of my childhood.
So a couple of those. We better hear a couple, yeah.
Maybe I should move the mic. Let's see if I can do it without being too loud. Ready? How's that? Do you even know what a peacock sounds like? I can do that real loud. That's how my kid knows what to find me on a playground when she's really far away, which is because everybody's called mommy and whatever.
Nobody else does peacocks.
Nobody does that, because that'd be weird.
Does that make you unique? Maybe that's where it started.
I don't know. I think my dad tells me that I've been training to be a Mythbuster my entire life. He said that he's caught me many times trying to turn my sister into a crash test dummy. I used to do little experiments on her. I mean, I think we all tried the 360 swing set, and I tried to throw her around the swing set like that. But when I was a kid, I think I was about 5 years old, and she was 2, and we have a laundry chute. We lived in the mountains, so our house was kind of on a hill. So we had a laundry chute that would go from the top floor all the way down to the garage basement where it would catch all the laundry that you threw in a cabinet. And he had found me, I don't know why I was 5 and completely unattended, actually, so this seems crazy. 70s. So I put a bunch of pillows down in the bucket that would catch all of the laundry, and I had been tossing dolls down the 3 stories of the chute trying to see if they would land okay, and he came in just before I was about to drop my sister down the chute, and I was like, it's okay. See? All the teddy bears are fine.
You tested it.
I tested
Fine.
it, I had a
Fine.
sample size of like 7 teddy bears. They were fine.
So what is your most memorable technology experience to date? Because we have a bunch of technology gurus, nerds out here.
I mean, I've had so much interaction with so many different technologies, but it's funny how much they change, because the technology that we thought was just so cutting edge is now just silly. Like, everybody's doing it. Like, the first time I saw a 3D printer, I just remember being in awe, and what we printed was this little, surfboard, and it crumbled in my hands. Like, it wasn't even that good. My first interaction on Mythbusters was getting to use 3D modeling and a sculpture tool that you could actually feel the resistance of clay and sculpt something out when it was just in the air, and I got to do that, and then it would turn into a computer model. But as of recent, the most interesting technology for me is something that we used on our news show that's coming out in December called the White Rabbit Project, where I got to do some amateur neuroscience. That's a thing. Where I got to hook Tori up.
We probably have some volunteers.
Right?
Anybody?
I found this thing where there's this program that kind of works with amateur neuroscience, and they helped me hook Tori up with a bunch of electrodes so that I could control his muscles, which was so much fun. And we did that as a project, filming project for White Rabbit Project, and it was hilarious. I messed him up good. He was a mess.
So, if you were stranded on a desert island and you only got to download one app,
Right.
which app would you want to be stranded with?
See, that's tough because, I'd love to be able to FaceTime my family, but I guess if you're stranded, I really like Spotify. How do you make it through your day without a soundtrack? I'm sure there's smarter answers. Zombies versus plants, that would get me through a lot.
And
what would be yours?
The complete works of Shakespeare, maybe, and Spotify.
Never. I've had enough high school Shakespeare.
I'm done with that.
It's good enough.
So we just opened, as we were talking, the beautiful new Tracy Hall Science Center.
Yes.
And you're headed there, I think, to meet a bunch of folks who are really excited to talk to you. But as you travel the world, what do you tell people about education in STEM, science, engineering, technology, and let's throw in arts and math?
I mean, it's really evolved over the years because in the beginning, I guess they didn't see a lot of women on TV in roles that were compelling. Like the woman was always the nurse, not the doctor. She was the assistant, not the scientist. So at first, everybody was asking, how do we get girls involved in STEM? And I was like, I don't know. I'm on TV. So I started asking the question a lot. You know, I did a round table at the White House and, you know, asking girls, how do we get you involved in STEM? And I think the problem has now evolved because I think girls are interested in STEM. Clearly, when I was growing up, I was being a Mythbuster at 5, and I was interested in all those things. I think it's keeping them interested is now the question. How do you keep an environment where it doesn't get, where they don't get trampled by it? And I know that Google released its numbers on gender, and it turns out that they are one of the tech companies that has a higher rate of women, and they are, I think it was like 14% or 17% women, and that's one of the higher percentages. So I think the new thing that we need to figure out is how do we keep an environment that doesn't get aggressive and it feels safe? So for me, that's one of the things that I'm less of a preacher and more of an asker. Like I'm going out asking people, what do you think? What got you involved? I love asking strong women in power positions, like what were the things that made you a scientist? And I often get the answer, a strong father figure, because it's not a girl thing, it is a everybody thing, as well as you know, just finding a field where they could fight and find other women to network with. So finding people like you to help support you and supporting others, as well as, you know, a good base to start with.
So we all have a role to play. No matter whether we're in science, we can help inspire others to, and women to be part of it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a parent and you're excited about something, your kids are excited about it. So if you're excited about science, they're excited about science. If you're excited about TV, they're going to be excited about TV. So I think it's important to, you know, it's easy to say, but we have very limited time. But, you know, every now and then, if you can grab them and do something fun and usually messy gets kids the most excited, I think that's going to be the most inspiring thing, is just show them your passion.
Absolutely. So as an artist, how do you feel STEM education and technology converge and affect a creative mind?
I mean, I always thought that science and art were in the same line. I mean, you're fostering a curiosity. They just manifest in different ways. I mean, the mother of computer science, you know, Ada Lovelace, she was the daughter of Lord Byron, a poet, and her mother tried to cure her of poetry by making her study math. And she came up with one of the original concepts that created algorithms. So that combination, I feel, of art and mathematics is what we can owe for computer science today. So I just think that when you approach science the way you approach art, getting messy and getting your hands dirty and getting into it, I think you'll be more interested. At least from my perspective, I am just on TV. So.
And it makes you more interesting, too. So how many devices or computers and what kind do you think you interface with on a typical day?
Oh my God, so many. I live with my iPhone next to me. I mean, that's my alarm in the morning, and then I usually have like some sort of Fitbit that's going to tell me, you know, what my heart rate is doing, and you know, I go to my iPad or my computer constantly. I mean, there's a GPS in my car that's telling me how to get to where I'm going. I feel like every aspect of my life has something, and the electronic billboards in San Francisco are, you know, cluttering the highways, and they're actually reactive to the internet. So I'm in Silicon Valley, so even just sitting at lunch in a restaurant, you hear app developers all around you going, trying to figure out how to use a microphone, trying to figure out what the next best thing is. So I'm sort of engulfed in it constantly.
So how do you think all that technology, both positive and negative, impacts your relationships with people?
I mean, personally, FaceTime is big for me because I travel a bunch. I take a lot of Skype meetings. I used to be able to turn on a phone call, not pay attention. Now I have to actually pay attention to conference calls with networks.
Because they see your face.
Instead of just sketching faces of what I think they look like, which was way more fun. I mean, I do think there's a lot more connectivity with being able to video screen with people. And I'm big on Twitter and Facebook and all of that. I'm able to connect directly, so I can get instant feedback like, did you like the show? You didn't? Tell me why you didn't so I can make it better. Or you did like the show. Okay, cool. Or what would you want of the show? Because Mythbusters started out very, very interactive with our audience, which I think made it very different. We had message boards. So if you had a better idea how to do what we did, we would go back and do it again. And I loved that. I think that our show in particular was always kind of run by the audience, you know?
And in fact, if you have some questions today, you can be checking out the Tech Expo and asking those. And if we have time, we'll ask a few of those.
Yeah.
But a question I asked you this morning, who's your favorite person to FaceTime with?
Oh, my daughter, of course, because I ride to school with her in the morning. When I'm here, I can just call her and I can talk to her right before she goes to bed or read a book because Daddy doesn't do the voices. Come on, Mom, you can't travel again.
Very nice. So how is it to be reunited with your build crew mates on your new show?
I mean, it's really cool to be able to do a project with them again. I've done a lot of projects with Tori, but Grant lives in LA, and Tori and I live in San Francisco. So, I get to go out to lunch with all of those crew all the time. But Grant, I finally got to do a show with again, and White Rabbit Project's really fun. It's not all science. It's a fostering of all curiosity. So lots of different types of stories. There's still some building and some fun, and it was cool to be able to see them again, you know? It's like these are people I feel like I grew up with because it was my first grown-up job, and I spent over a decade every single day seeing them. And when Mythbusters ended, I didn't realize, oh, wait a minute, I don't get to see my buddies every single day. That was the saddest part.
Yeah, it's the relationships, isn't it?
Yeah.
And with technology, it's using technology for those relationships, relationship building. So can you tell us anything more about any secrets of a White Rabbit project? That everybody loves the behind-the-scenes story, right?
I would say we don't have a ton of behind the scenes because we just started, so there's not a lot. And I think everything that's crazy you kind of get to see in the show. It's going to premiere December 9th. I can't tell you how we sort of came up with the title, though, because we were trying to figure out what it would be. And one secret I think that you don't know is that came up because I was listening to the radio. I was laying down watching stars and probably drinking way too much wine. And all of a sudden the radio went, "Go ask Alice when she's 6 feet tall." I was like, yeah, the show's kind of like when you're on the internet and you kind of fall down that rabbit hole, and an hour later you've been researching the best jailbreaks and you realize like an hour of your life is just gone. I was like, that's kind of what the show's about. And I called up Tori first. I'm like, am I crazy? Is this the Pinot Noir or is this a good? And it started out down the rabbit hole and then it morphed into White Rabbit Project because I think it sounded more tech.
Nice.
I'm not even sure the network knows that's how it came about. I am good at 1 or 2 glasses of wine at coming up with creative projects. Maybe that's not what I should be telling the children. Never mind. That is a grown-up thing to do.
All right, so describe a TV event. This works perfectly because we're talking about blowing your mind. Describe a TV event from your shows that blew your mind.
Oh, God, we've had so many, but you mean from Mythbusters?
Oh, any.
Pick
Take your pick your favorite.
Mythbusters we got the opportunity to do a lot of really fun stuff. We got to blow up a bunch of stuff, but we got to take a 747 and see if we could flip a car with the backwash from the engines, and I didn't think it was possible. The first time we did it, I was just amazed. But the funnest part for me, which I don't even remember if it totally made the episode, is when we went out to Michigan and we fired up the 747, and you just saw all of a sudden all of the asphalt that was down on the runway started peeling up like cardboard and flying, and I could just see our producers and the woman who's in charge of the insurance and the money going, oh! It's clearly not supposed to happen. And the way that they were flying through the air, I thought that I could just go clean it up real quick and put it back. So, Grant, Tori, and I ran over there and tried to pick the pieces up, and they were hundreds you couldn't lift them, and they just blew away. It was amazing. So my mind was blown by how much destruction we can accidentally, before we even start working, cause to unsuspecting volunteers who help us out.
So what was your scariest moment then? You've had to have had a few where you thought, am I going to make it?
I mean, we've had a lot of them. We actually did test the smell of fear at one point, where they needed to scare us, and we stayed at the Winchester Mystery House, which was supposed to be haunted, and I think we watched The Ring at the Winchester Mystery House in the dark and had to sleep there, and it was scary, but it was like ha scary. I screamed a bunch. But then it didn't really work. It didn't create a fear smell, the myth being that you create a smell that is particular, a hormone that's particular to fear. And it can be discerned from the sweat that is just from exercise. So we had to keep trying, and so they know that I don't really enjoy creepy crawlies so much. So we had to pick out of a bin of creepy crawlies. There was like rats and snakes and spiders and whatever, and brought in a wrangler who just happens to have all these at a vivarium. So I picked scorpions, and so I had to crawl into this glass box, which it's human size, so it looked like a coffin, like it's Snow White, and they took 40 scorpions, and they told me to take my shoes off so I wouldn't scratch the glass, but I think it was just so I could feel the scorpions, and then they poured scorpions all over me. 40 of them. They gave me glasses so it wouldn't sting me in the eyes, because they're really nice. And they put one right on my face so I could just see it sitting there like moving right on my eyes. And they told me, they're like, don't worry. Scorpions will only sting you if you move. So when my foot started uncontrollably shaking, like involuntary, I couldn't stop it, started shaking, I started to get more scared, and my foot started shaking more, and then my hands started to shake, and then it turned out that maybe you know this because you're in the desert, but bright orange is the color of scorpion food. Didn't know that. Fingernails were bright orange. They started biting on my fingernails. It was only like 7 to 10 minutes, but the panic inside me was enough to actually create a fear smell that a trained scientist could actually just smell and tell was different than when they made me run on a treadmill, which was insane. But
okay, how many of you, your heart is doing this a little bit?
Scorpions! Are you kidding me with that?
That's a scene right out of, 1984, when they put the rats on the face, right?
Well, Grant got rats, so I think...
That's a horror scene.
Oh, Tori got snakes, and one started going in his shirt and down his pant leg. I could see him. He's just like, oh, God. I was like, none of them were fun. But the snake trainer, or the wrangler, he's like, yeah, I've never seen anybody do scorpions before. That's cool. I wasn't sure how this was going to turn out. Like, what? Who hired this guy?
I can see the tombstone. I did scorpions.
Yeah, it was fine. I'm still here.
And she lived to tell about it. Okay, so what was the favorite myth you ever busted?
God, there's so many. I really enjoyed some of the earlier ones, and I was actually, one of my favorite myths is one that we didn't bust, but that we confirmed, which is that you can fly with balloons. We early on had this little girl, because we did the math, and it's about 10 grams can be lifted by one helium balloon. And so we figured out that we were going to need just to raise this little girl who's, I think she's in college now, but she was 4 at the time, and we lifted her with 3,600 helium balloons. We got her buoyant, and her just little giggly face when we were able to actually pull it off. It always comes back to me how fun it was, because it was an early myth for me. It was a first one that, like, me and Tori and Scotty, and we were all kind of doing it together, and we weren't sure it was going to actually work. And the fact that it worked and we could make this little girl kind of jumping up and down was so much fun. It was like, wow, we could do anything. I mean, blowing stuff up was easy. Spending all days filling balloons was actually, it was kind of a run against the clock, because, you know, they could pop or the wind could come up. And I mean, I don't think we could have tied the balloons to an American. It was one of the Australians' children. They don't have, it's not as litigious there, so. Like, yeah, get the Australian kid. We could do that.
And you got her back.
I mean, she's going to college now, so she's probably a very transformative experience for her. I would have remembered that.
Speaking of transformative, you've talked about, with such enthusiasm, busting myths. What can we do in our lives to get that excited and passionate about something? That what will give us the spark to?
I think that's why I like nerds and geeks so much, is because everybody, you've got that level of excitement that's more childlike. You know, I go to a lot of science fairs, and when you see how excited the kids are, it's really, it's just contagious. Like, you feel excited too about what they're doing. So I like delving into very specialized passions. Like, I love people that are super into comic books, and they just make that their thing because they enjoy it. Like, you just can't get weighed down by what you're supposed to do every day. I think it's nice to foster the one thing you find really cool, and that's what the nerds do. They're like, I like zombies. I'm gonna get myself a zombie machete kit. I'm gonna watch all the Walking Dead. I'm gonna wear the t-shirts. You like Star Wars, you start collecting. I love the nerdy passions. Or heck, sports. You really like a team and the people with the paint on their faces. I think it's really good to foster the things that excite you. I think it profoundly will just contribute to everything else in your life if you're doing the thing that makes you excited.
I think so. So, what is your favorite way to waste time? Do you ever waste time?
I mean, some people would think a lot of the things I do are a waste of time. So, I am a sculptor, and I've always been a sculptor, and I wanted to get into special effects, and that's how I ended up on TV, as I was, trying to be behind the scenes and make monsters. So now I make monsters in my spare time, and they used to be really scary and gory and kind of, horror-y when I was trying to get into the business, but now I have a kid, so I use my skills for creative parenting. Personally, we over the past couple of years, kids are disgusting. So we find the one habit that is particularly the grossest at the moment, and we create a little monster to kind of talk about it. So we started out with the poop monster because she would never flush the toilets, and the story was that if you leave it there, it's going to grow eyes and arms and legs and crawl out of the toilet and come look for its mommy. So for a while, she was picking her nose. So we started making these little creatures that were the booger monsters. I'm like, they live in your nose. If you steal their food, they're going to be mad, and they're going to be hungry, and they're going to crawl out of your nose, and they're going to find the next best's hole, which is probably your ear, and they're going to eat your brain, and you're never going to learn to read. I don't know if it's good parenting, but it's fun for me. And she enjoys the artistic, crafty time. And at this point, I've got a whole workshop because she just continues to be disgusting. There's nail biting, there's the manners dragon, there's all sorts of just
Are you writing books about this?
Not yet,
You
but
should
my daughter's been telling me I have a very artistic journal where I've got a story behind each one of them, and well, maybe someday we'll put
What
that
do you
out
think?
in the world.
A book series for children?
for parents who like to scare the heck out of their kids.
And you can save the money from it for a little counseling that she might.
Oh, there's so much more she's going to need counseling for than that. I mean, this is live stream, but to this day, okay, I'll just tell you, 'cause if you want some more to surprise you, to this day she thinks she was born with a tail, but I wanted her to look normal to the other kids, so we had it cut off, and that's what that little mole on the back of her, her back is. I mean, someday I'll tell her the truth, but it's so fun. She'd be like, really? Yeah. Children are for our entertainment, really. I mean, you figure you got to carpool them to everything they go to. We might as well have some fun.
Fun while we're doing it. So speaking of fun, we know your next project is White Rabbit production, but right after today's event, you're headed off to do some other fun things.
Yeah, Tori and I are trying to make sci-fi do something for us. So it's not, they haven't bought it yet, but we're trying to get, I love the cross between science and science fiction. I mean, you know, I loved Frankenstein and all the original science fiction stories. So we're trying to get them to do something for us. And Tori and I have been doing a bunch of projects along the way. We did a bunch of Travel Channel projects. We did a show called Thrill Factor that was the science of roller coasters. So I'm just going to keep plugging away, trying to get intelligent TV. But the most fun coming up in early November is we're going to film the Pumpkin Chunkin'. Have you guys heard of the Pumpkin Chunkin'? Yeah, they're bringing it back. It was gone for a little while, but they're bringing it back. They film it in Delaware. Hundreds of thousands of people show up to chunk pumpkin as far as possible by mechanical means. So air cannons with 100-foot shafts, battle-ready trebuchets, catapults, human-powered centrifugal machines, just these crazy, giant, it looks like a war field when you go out there, because there's machines that are taller than this room just for throwing a pumpkin, and they can throw them over a mile. It is insanity. It is the best of guerrilla engineering and passion at a specified sort of weirdness. It's nerdiness and coolness all wrapped up into one bizarre event. Yeah. And they sell pumpkin lattes there. They're delicious.
And we should put on this, do this at your own risk, or only professionals on this course, or something like that.
Oh, God, no. Everybody goes out there. There's rocket scientists out there, and then there's just like guys build it in their garage because it's fun. They work all year round. I met one person that spent $100,000 on their pumpkin chunker. I was like, what is your day job? Rocket scientist. I'm like, you're going to the moon versus, okay, sure, I like this. I like this. This is fun. This is how you go home and relax.
I think just one more question from me, and then we'll see if anybody else has some questions that they just can't resist from asking.
Great.
So do you think in the last, since you began Mythbusters, that it really has been okay as a society to become a techno nerd? 10 years ago, I'm not sure that was cool.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that there has been a revolution of sort of nerd appreciation for sure.
I think it's me.
Oh, okay. There's definitely been a change. Like Comic-Con has gotten bigger, and I think shows like Mythbusters wouldn't be successful unless, you know, the world started to appreciate the intelligence of the nerds. And as far as technology, we all sit there with our phones in our hands constantly interacting. And I mean, I personally come from the Silicon Valley, so I've been watching it from day one. I'm from the same hometown as Steve Wozniak, so he's always been kind of part of growing up, watching people get very excited about technology. And more, I think it's what we do. I think it's the future for us, you know. We're not building cars anymore. We're building apps.
So are you giving everyone in this audience sanction to be just as nerdy as they want?
I think I've been doing that for a long time. I'm a fan.
Awesome. Okay, Bronson, do you have a couple of questions for us?
Has technology brought us questions?
He's running in. We decided we'd do these high-tech way on Post-it notes.
Oh, yeah. That's the balance of all things, yes.
We've been in the situation where technology wasn't working, and so paper's great.
Who hasn't? That's why we got to keep improving it. Yeah. Totally. I could probably hear you, though. You could just yell stuff if you wanted to.
So, how do you see, one of our questions is, how do you see technology creating challenges or benefits in all of your roles?
Well, I will be replaced by an AI robot, which will be completely programmable, so I will never age, and I will be able to jump over buildings in a single bound. So that will be an improvement. No, I do think that technology, we are now second screen viewing, which for someone like me is really fun because I can watch a show premiere and I can interact with the audience live and I can answer their questions live, and it has become, television hasn't just become a viewing and a one-person experience. It has become an experience for all of us together. So I personally, in my career, think that that technology is only improving it.
So, are you PC or Mac?
I'm Mac, but I'm an arty type. I've always been an arty type. And I told you about the Wozniak connection, right? Like, I always loyal to the soil. I got to support the home team there. For a brief period of time, we were trying to develop a television show together, and it didn't work out, but I'm still big fan of his. He is awesome.
Did you ever think of yourself when you were sitting in these seats back in college as a role model for especially young women in science? Could you have imagined that?
I couldn't imagine myself on television. I went from super awkwardly shy to, the arty type. I always wanted to be behind the scenes and make stuff. I got pushed in front of the camera. It was a real trial by fire. I kind of got came up on television. I'm terrible. I mean, I'm not really great at public speaking. I tell things.
Do you agree with that?
I say things I'm not supposed to say. I giggle a lot, and I definitely make executives nervous because I can't keep a secret. Probably already done it like 3 times today.
So you've talked about your scariest moment. What's your most embarrassing moment?
I mean, so many, but let's see. God, I mean, there was an episode that they didn't air for many, many years because they thought I looked too embarrassed, and they said they felt bad for me, which is when they wanted to do the episode on girls farting. They said the myth was that girls don't fart, and they called it Pretty Girls just to I think that was just so that they make me do it. I'd be like, oh, you think I'm pretty? Okay, I'll totally do it. So they decided that they were going to see if I would fart, toot, whatever. What's the good word to say? Toot? I don't know. Chanel number 2. So they made me wear these, Jamie handed me these big diapery bloomer underwear, and he's like, these are farting panties. Which, it's like, could you just not call them panties because you're like in a respectable position, and I just don't like it when you say that. So he let me inspect them. They had a hydrogen sulfide meter right at the business end with an alarm. They were wired with a microphone that was wired to the PA system, the entire building. I wore them all day. They fed me the beans and the cabbage and
some broccoli,
sugarless gum and the whole bit, the sodas. And this wasn't just the camera crew and the shop guys and all these giggly boys. It was a tour of a bunch of executives decided that day was the day they were going to come check out the shop. So there was discovery people and PR people. It was just fortunate circumstances for me that it got more and more embarrassing. So I was pretty tense. I was there for hours and hours and hours working, and there was no production, not one ham slam, couldn't do nothing. So finally, Adam had come up to me. He's like, this is unacceptable. We know this myth is not confirmed. You have to produce something. So on cue, I just let one rip. And it went the whole shop. And I was somewhat mortified. I had been spending my entire life trying to leave the room if I was on a date. So you don't let that stuff happen publicly so often. And so for me, I had to really let go. And this is the day I discovered that the secret to good television is that there is no dignity in television. You just kind of have to embrace it. But for a long time, they cut that from the episode. They're like, you just look way too embarrassed. It almost seems like bad taste.
Almost.
So they realized, let's just exploit this. And I think when we started running out of myths, they started running stuff like that.
You thought TV was glamorous, didn't you?
There's how technology was involved in my most embarrassing moment. There you go. Alarmed hydrogen sulfide meters.
So it's true. Pretty girls do Chanel number 2.
We all do. Every single one.
All right. Anyone? We have we have a couple of minutes left. Is there anybody who's just dying to ask a question from the audience?
I see a hand over there. Do you want to come to the microphone?
Yeah, come up so everybody can hear you.
Tori, for his tryout video for Mythbusters, actually did do girls fart. I think that's where they got the idea. He had a Mexican restaurant. He put a microphone underneath the table, and then he just faked all the noises. But that was kind of his audition tape. It was it was hilarious. Hello.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. What's your name?
My name is Alex.
Alex, do you have a question?
Do you have a favorite video game?
You know, I've been playing a lot of phone video games lately, and I think it's just my obsession with zombies, but I've just been doing zombies versus plants. I know it's pretty pedestrian. I know. Tori's super into Halo, but I've been on the road so much lately, and I've got a little kid, so I've kind of fallen prey to that. But in the old days, like, I demolished Mario Brothers when it came out. Paperboy and, Zelda, those were all very big when I was first coming
Zelda
up.
rocks.
Yes. I sat in the dark for weeks with my dad and my sister so that we could get all the way through with Mario Brothers when it first came out, on those giant consoles with the little thing. I can't believe my mom would just, like, slide food under the door practically, because she's like, video games were, not that prevalent, so it was, for her, she thought it was cute that we were bonding with Dad.
Well, if you think about if you want to try doing console games again, I have one word for you.
What?
Skyrim.
Oh, yeah. I also have, in my parents' house, I've got a stand-up Tempest and a Missile Command. I guess I'm vintage, because I just thought those were really cool.
So you said something about food there, which reminded me, you're a good cook. Any special recipes? Anything you want to share with us?
Oh, I'm a goofy California cook. All my stuff is going to be like pescan and they're all healthy. I'm a good cook for super healthy people that don't eat a lot of meat or dairy. So you're not going to like any of it.
A lot of veggies.
A lot of veggies?
But
Sweets. Make a mean beet burger.
A
beet burger?
beet burger.
My kid says, that's not a hamburger. I think it's delicious.
Nice. All right. Any other questions? Who's brave out there? Got a question?
Run on
Come
up.
on up to the mic.
Caramel corn's my specialty, though. I make a
Really?
Yeah,
Mean caramel corn.
Mean caramel corn.
That is really appropriate coming up for Halloween.
Yes.
Right.
Hi, it's really nice to meet you. I'm wondering, what advice would you give to young girls and young women who want to get into science but feel like they can't? Like, it's a boy thing, or they aren't allowed for one reason or the other.
Well, I find the easiest that we are so blessed with the technology that we can reach out. So if you're the only girl in a math club, you can reach out to other girls. They're the only girls in a math club 3 states over. And I think the most important thing is to network, find each other, to support each other. Because sometimes when you feel alone, you're not actually alone. You just happen to be alone in this one situation. I was with a bunch of dude hosts, and everybody always tried to get me to rip down other female hosts on TV shows. I was like, no, we need to help each other out and lift each other up. And then when you get into a power position, you do the same. You're going to reach down and help young women out and make them not feel alone and bring them on in. And I think that I would give you the same advice I would give everybody, men, women, every college student, internship. Everybody I know who got to a place that was difficult, that they really, really enjoy, was generally because they were willing to work for free, work really hard. They could figure out if they liked that profession. Maybe it wasn't even for them, but they could figure that out because they worked very hard for free at a time in their lives when they were able to work for free right out of college. And you prove yourself, you make connections.
Thank you so much. You're great.
Thank you.
Tell us about that first M5 day. How did that all transpire?
Well, I wanted to get into toy prototyping. I wanted to get into special effects, and I tried getting a job at ILM, and I couldn't even get a job as a receptionist. They wouldn't call me back. I tried to go to Pixar, tried everywhere. But one day, a friend of mine was in Jamie's shop at M5 Industries, they were sort of known as being like the scrappy, the guys who would do the cheapest and the fastest. And now I know why. He had an army of minions that would work for free. So I showed up with a pretty terrible portfolio, which only one page he seemed vaguely interested in. But then I said I would work for him for free. So he let me be an intern until I, worked my way in. And my first day was also the first day that Mythbusters was filming. So I kind of tripped and fell into this weird career because I helped build behind the scenes. I was always around the shop, so I was just help out. And one day they decided they needed to work faster, so they were going to hire builders to build on the program. And after I think about the third day of being a builder, they're like, "It's not fast enough. You're a host now." And kind of just, what? Tori was like, no, I came from ILM. I build models. I don't talk. No. And all of us, we brought Grant in later, but I don't think any of us expected to be on television. And especially, I was a shy girl. At the time, I wore mostly big, giant coveralls and overalls, hair in a bun. I was building things. I was a dirty art girl. But they needed help with a myth, which was the one about the airline where a very larger woman sat down in an airplane toilet. She flushed the toilet. She got sucked in. They had to land the plane to get her off the toilet. And they needed a butt. And I guess they thought it would be better if it was a female butt. Since I was the only female butt in there, they did this crazy 3D modeling program where they had to take a 3D scan of my butt. So we went shopping for like a skin-colored cat suit, and I bent over a stool and let them take a scan, which was really weird, especially with all the interns laughing and taking pictures at the time. Because they're like,
Those are now for sale.
yeah. Well, it's the first thing you Google when you see me, but Jamie's like, "I'll give you $100 for it." And at the time I was like, $100? That's a lot of money. Nobody's ever going to see this. Who watches cable? Like Discovery was like Wild West. It was, nobody watched that. I didn't think it would be the first thing that my mom Googles when she,
Put your name in.
Yeah, it's my butt. But the technology was so rudimentary. We had tons of big, giant cameras, and you had to hold completely still, and it took a really awkwardly long time. And then he let me put into, my trade-off was also that I got to use the technology to sculpt it into a larger size, and I wanted to get the right dimpling and everything, because that was a 23-year-old butt. They needed more reality to it. So I looked at a lot of reference material, which, funny enough, the internet has a lot of reference material on butts. I don't know if you knew this, but you can find any shape, size, anything in any configuration you need of butts. So, did that.
Okay, we do not recommend this.
So many pop-up ads, because it was fully artistic because I wanted to make it look perfect so we could create this giant mold, and then it stayed in the shop for a very long time, and they threw darts at it. And just like somehow it felt very voodoo-esque, even though it didn't look like my butt anymore. Anyway, there's that. Questions?
Not everybody draws out all this good information about you, do they?
No.
Just Weber State.
Yeah, they
We have the
good ones.
scoop now.
You guys can jump up on a microphone. You can do that. Go ahead.
We have about time for one last question, so you
What
get
was
it.
your favorite science experiment when you were little?
When I was little, we did a lot of dangerous ones because my dad didn't have a scientific background, so we lit a lot of stuff on fire. So maybe I should tell you about the ones that I do with my kid, which are my favorites. Now, love Mentos and Coke. I do like flying teddy bears with helium balloons. That is always really, really fun. It takes a lot more than you expect. So I would go for the non-explosive ones first. My dad used to do things like take dry cleaner bags, tie them in knots, pin it to the ceiling, light it on fire so that you could see how toxic purple flame balls would fall into a bucket of water down below. My mom would kill him if she knew that. We used to, make match head rockets We do those lanterns that fly up into the air on fire, so yeah, maybe my dad isn't the one that should be teaching you these things. So look at the head rush ones.
You have given us a lot of fun things to think about today, but as you're leaving, so last question, what would you like everyone in this room to take with them to inspire them today to be better people, and especially better in science, technology, engineering, art, and math?
I don't know if it's very inspirational, but I think you should just have fun with it. If just really enjoy it. I find that when Mythbusters ended, I got really scared that my life was now going to be normal and boring, and I went straight to the mall and I bought a pair of slacks. No offense, sorry. No offense to anybody wearing slacks. I bought a pair of black slacks. I'm like, I got to get me a real job now. I have not cut the tag off yet. Turns out, no matter what, if you keep following things that make you passionate, happy, and have fun with, you're always going to have a job.
Thank you. I think we've got to wrap up with that. Do you have one more quick question?
I think we had one more question from the little boy over here.
Oh, you can't miss a little boy, right? Okay, one quick question. What's your name?
Matthew, but you haven't talked about your new show yet, and I was wondering if it would be a bit more like Mythbusters.
It's not a new Mythbusters. It's a totally different beast. White Rabbit Project, Netflix, comes out in December, but it's still full of fostering curiosity. It's still lots of cool stuff, and I'm pretty sure we set at least one thing on fire. If we had a season 2, there'll be a lot more boom, I'll tell you that.
Okay, so I'll be looking on Netflix.
Thank you. That's my PR agent, by the way.
Thank you so much. What a delight to have you here at
Thank
Weber
you for
State.
inviting me.
Wasn't that fun, everybody? Thanks, Kari. Thanks, Allison. Okay, so who else is now going to go forth and be curious? Okay, well, I have some tantalizing information for you then. I'm sorry, I'm not going to model my butt 3D. If you look under your chairs, who has the number 4? Oh my gosh. This is like a mosh pit. Except for nobody's hurt yet, thank goodness. Anybody with a number 4?
Where is under the chair? Like,
It should be a card or a piece of paper under the chair, number 4. Is that a number 4? Keep your number though if it isn't a number 4, because I have other stuff for you guys. Oh. Dump truck sticker. 4? Come on down, number 4. Number 4 is going to be taking this highly fashionable picture for different types of unique one. Wildcat ticket. Congratulations. Okay. Number 3.